Have you ever noticed how some people radiate a different kind of power? Not the loud, flashy kind that demands attention, but something deeper, a quiet force that doesn't need to announce itself to be felt. That's the essence of Capricorn energy. A presence so grounded, so enduring, that it changes the very atmosphere of a room without saying a word. In a world obsessed with noise and spectacle, Capricorns carry a light that burns differently, steadier, deeper, and ultimately more transformative than most could imagine. When you first meet a Capricorn, you might notice only the surface, their composure, their practicality, perhaps even what seems like emotional distance. But that surface is merely the visible peak of a mountain whose true magnitude lies hidden beneath. What appears as simple seriousness is actually a profound depth of character, forged through challenges that would break many others. What looks like emotional restraint is actually a masterful sovereignty over feelings that most people are ruled by. And what seems like stubborn determination is actually an unshakable commitment to creating something of lasting value in a world addicted to the temporary. Most people drift through life like leaves on water, carried by whatever current happens to be strongest at the moment. Social pressure, emotional impulses, fleeting trends. But Capricorns move differently. They are the mountain in a world of leaves. They stand rooted, intentional, unmoved by temporary storms, yet forever growing towards something higher. This isn't rigidity, it's alignment with something timeless within themselves, a connection to purpose that transcends the moment. Think about the most reliable person you know, the one who shows up when everyone else makes excuses, the one who keeps their word even when it costs them, the one who builds while others talk about building. Chances are, you're thinking of someone with strong Capricorn energy, because at their core, Capricorns understand something that has become increasingly rare in our culture. That character isn't what you claim, it's what you demonstrate consistently, especially when no one is watching. The power that makes Capricorn truly incomparable isn't about domination or control. It's a generative power, the kind that creates rather than consumes, that builds rather than destroys, that endures rather than burns out. It's the power of the mountain that provides shelter, stability, perspective, and the foundation upon which communities can thrive. In a very real sense, Capricorns are spiritual architects, designing and constructing the invisible structures of trust, reliability, and integrity that make all other human achievements possible. What's fascinating about this Capricorn light is that it often goes unrecognized for years, sometimes decades. While more flamboyant energies receive immediate attention and praise, Capricorn works in silence, laying foundations so solid that they can support enormous weight without cracking. And then one day, people look around and suddenly realize who has been quietly holding everything together all along, who has been the constant while everything else changed, who has been building something extraordinary without fanfare or drama. This is the paradox at the heart of Capricorn energy. Their greatest power comes from a place that our culture has largely forgotten how to value. In an age that worships youth, they embody the wisdom of maturity. In a society fixated on speed, they move with deliberate purpose. In a world chasing innovation, they honor what has stood the test of time. And yet, precisely because they don't align with these contemporary obsessions, they possess a freedom and power that few others can access. If you're drawn to this exploration, if something in these words resonates with a truth you've sensed but perhaps couldn't articulate, you're in the right place. Here at Secret of the Zodiac, we dive beneath the surface, beyond the horoscope cliches, into the profound spiritual and psychological truths encoded in each sign. This isn't about predicting your day or matching you with a compatible partner. It's about understanding the unique light you carry and how to let it shine more fully in a world that needs it desperately. Before we explore the 12 specific powers that make Capricorn truly incomparable, take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel. Each video is crafted to illuminate these deeper zodiacal truths, to help you recognize and honor the cosmic patterns at work in your life and in those around you. Hit that like button too, It helps this message reach others who are searching for substance in a sea of superficiality. Now let's begin our journey into the first three powers of light that make Capricorn an unmatched force in this world. Powers that form the foundation of their extraordinary presence and impact. The first reason, unshakable mountain essence. There exists in every true Capricorn a core of immovable strength that defies the chaos of our modern world. This mountain essence isn't something they develop, it's something they are. While others are built of shifting sand, easily reshaped by every passing trend or social pressure, Capricorns are carved from ancient stone. They possess a gravitational center so powerful that even in their youth, they often carry a wisdom and stability that seems to transcend their years. Think of the last time you faced a genuine crisis, not just a bad day, but a moment when the foundations of your life seemed to tremble beneath you. Who did you instinctively reach for? Chances are, it was someone with this mountain essence, someone who wouldn't panic, who wouldn't crumble, who wouldn't abandon you when things got difficult. This is the first hidden power of Capricorn, and it's remarkably rare in a culture increasingly built on quicksand. What makes this essence so extraordinary is that it doesn't come from rigidity or emotional numbness. Capricorns feel the full spectrum of human emotion, sometimes even more intensely than others. The difference lies in how these emotions move through them. While many are controlled by their feelings, tossed about like ships in a storm, Capricorns have learned to feel deeply without being destabilized. They understand that emotions are weather passing over the mountain, not the mountain itself. This unshakable quality creates a sanctuary for others. In a world where so many people are fragmented, scattered, and perpetually anxious, the solid presence of a Capricorn becomes a refuge. You can see it in how people instinctively gather around them during times of uncertainty. Not because Capricorns have all the answers, but because their steady presence reminds everyone that storms pass, that ground remains, that there is something within us that cannot be broken if we stay rooted in what matters most. The mountain essence also manifests in Capricorn's relationship with adversity. Where others might be devastated by setbacks, Capricorns view challenges differently, almost as if they expected them, perhaps even welcomed them, not from a place of masochism, but from a deep understanding that pressure creates strength, that resistance builds capacity, that the mountain doesn't fear the storm because the storm is what shaped the mountain in the first place. The second reason, timeless patience, mastery. In direct opposition to our culture of instant gratification stands the second power of Capricorn, timeless patience mastery. This isn't the passive patience of simply waiting. It's the active patience of someone playing a much longer game than most can comprehend. Capricorns understand something profound that our society has largely forgotten, that anything of genuine value takes time to create, to mature, to reveal its full potential. Look at how most people approach their goals. They want success without apprenticeship, wisdom without experience, harvest without planting. They grow frustrated when results don't appear immediately, abandoning projects, relationships, and practices before they've had time to develop depth or substance. Capricorns move entirely differently. They're willing to invest years, sometimes decades, into mastering a craft, building a relationship, or developing a vision. Not because they enjoy waiting, but because they respect the natural laws of growth and maturation. This patience extends to how they view setbacks. While others see delays as failures, Capricorns often recognize them as necessary redirections or opportunities for strengthening foundations before building higher. They understand that timing is everything, that forcing growth often creates weakness, that rushing completion often ensures collapse. Their patience isn't born of passivity, but of profound strategic wisdom. They're willing to move slowly now to move unimpeded later. What's remarkable about this patience is how it shapes their decision-making. In a world of reactive choices and short-term thinking, Capricorns naturally consider implications that extend far beyond the immediate moment. They ask questions others don't think to ask. How will this decision look in 5 years? What foundation am I building for the future? Is this temporary gain worth the long-term cost? This temporal perspective gives them an extraordinary advantage in nearly every arena of life. The patience of Capricorn also reveals itself in how they handle interpersonal challenges. When conflicts arise, they rarely rush to judgment or react from emotion. Instead, they observe. They consider multiple perspectives. They wait for more information to emerge. This doesn't mean they avoid addressing problems. Quite the opposite. They address issues thoroughly, but with a measured approach that seeks lasting resolution rather than temporary peace. The third reason, silent strength magnetism. Perhaps the most mysterious of Capricorn's powers is their silent strength magnetism, an almost gravitational pull they exert without conscious effort. Unlike charisma that demands attention or charm that seduces, this magnetism operates differently. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't perform. It simply is, a quiet authority that draws others naturally, like planets orbiting a sun. You've likely experienced this phenomenon. There are certain people who, without raising their voice or demanding recognition, command a room simply by entering it, not through intimidation or flamboyance, but through a grounded presence so authentic that it creates its own field of influence. This is the Capricorn magnetism at work, power that doesn't need to prove itself to be felt. What makes this silent strength so compelling is its rarity in our current culture. We live in an age of self-promotion, where worth is often measured by visibility, where value must be constantly broadcast to be recognized. Capricorns stand in stark contrast to this paradigm. They don't chase validation. They don't manipulate perception. They focus instead on substance, on becoming someone of genuine depth and capability. And paradoxically, this very refusal to seek attention often makes them the most magnetic people in any gathering. This magnetism is particularly evident in how Capricorns handle authority. They don't need titles to lead, don't need formal power to influence. Their authority emerges organically from who they are, from their competence, their integrity, their willingness to take responsibility when others won't. You can see it in how people naturally turn to them for guidance, even when they hold no official position. You can feel it in how their words carry weight, not because they're spoken loudly, but because they are backed by authentic experience. There's a profound lesson here for all of us. In a world increasingly dominated by surface over substance, by image over reality, Capricorns remind us of a deeper truth. Real power doesn't announce itself. Real strength doesn't need to dominate. Real authority doesn't demand recognition. These qualities emerge naturally from a life dedicated to substance rather than appearance, to excellence rather than ego, to contribution rather than consumption. The silent strength magnetism of Capricorn creates a presence that others instinctively trust, not because they're perfect, they're not, but because there's an alignment between what they say and what they do, between who they claim to be and who they actually are. In a world where this alignment has become increasingly rare, it generates an almost magnetic pull that others can feel, even if they can't quite name what they're feeling. These first three powers, unshakable mountain essence, timeless patience mastery, and silent strength magnetism, form the foundation of Capricorn's incomparable light. They create a presence of extraordinary stability, wisdom, and authentic power that stands in stark contrast to the more superficial forms of influence so prevalent today. But these are merely the beginning of Capricorn's luminous gifts. As we continue our exploration, we'll discover how these foundational powers support even deeper capacities for resilience, vision, and connection that truly set Capricorn apart. The fourth reason, soul-deep resilience. Following the silent strength magnetism we explored, we discover a power perhaps even more remarkable, the soul-deep resilience that allows Capricorn to endure and transform through life's most challenging seasons. This isn't ordinary toughness or simple persistence. It's an alchemical capacity to absorb the heaviest blows life delivers and transmute them into wisdom, strength, and unexpected growth. What sets this resilience apart is its depth. Many people develop coping mechanisms to get through difficulty, temporary strategies that help them survive until things improve. Capricorn's resilience operates at a much deeper level. It doesn't just help them survive hardship, it fundamentally transforms them through it. They don't merely endure storms, they harness their energy, incorporate their lessons, and emerge not just intact, but expanded. You can recognize this soul-deep resilience in how Capricorns process setbacks. Where others might collapse into victimhood or become bitter after major disappointments, Capricorns respond differently. There's an almost stoic quality to how they face difficult truths, not from emotional detachment, but from a profound acceptance of reality as it is, rather than as they wish it were. This radical acceptance becomes the foundation for their remarkable ability to rebuild after devastation. Consider how most people handle failure or rejection. There's often a period of denial, followed by anger, blame, or self-pity. These reactions are understandable, but they consume enormous energy without producing forward movement. Capricorns tend to skip much of this emotional detour. They feel the pain fully, sometimes more deeply than others, but they don't get stuck there. They move quickly to the questions that actually matter. What can I learn from this? How do I adapt? What's the next right step? This practical wisdom saves them from the exhaustion of fighting against what cannot be changed. The resilience of Capricorn also reveals itself in their relationship with failure. They understand something that many never grasp, that failure is not the opposite of success, but an integral part of it. They expect challenges, they anticipate obstacles, they build contingency plans, not from pessimism, but from pragmatism. And when failures inevitably occur, they don't interpret them as personal indictments, but as necessary feedback, as valuable data points, guiding them toward a more effective approach. Perhaps most remarkably, this resilience allows Capricorns to endure periods of profound darkness without losing their fundamental orientation toward light. They can navigate extended seasons of difficulty, career setbacks, health challenges, relationship dissolutions, while maintaining a core of quiet hope. Not the naive optimism that expects immediate rescue, but the mature faith that understands that growth often requires darkness, that transformation demands dismantling, that new life emerges only after old forms have been composted. The fifth reason, strategic foresight. Vision beyond resilience lies another extraordinary capacity, the strategic foresight vision that allows Capricorn to perceive patterns, opportunities, and dangers long before they become obvious to others. This isn't mere planning or careful consideration. It's a form of temporal intelligence that gives them access to a dimension of reality many others miss entirely, the space where future possibilities are being shaped by present choices. What makes this foresight so powerful is that it doesn't operate like prediction or divination. Capricorns don't claim to know exactly what will happen. Instead, they develop an exquisite sensitivity to cause and effect, to how small actions compound over time, to how current trends will likely unfold if continued. They recognize the seeds of tomorrow in the soil of today with a clarity that can sometimes appear almost prophetic to those around them. You can see this strategic foresight vision in how Capricorns approach decision-making. While others might evaluate choices based primarily on immediate benefits or costs, Capricorns naturally extend their analysis across multiple time horizons. They consider not just what will this do for me now, but what will this mean for me in 5 years, in 10 years? What foundations am I building or undermining with this choice? This temporal depth gives their decisions a quality of wisdom that appears increasingly rare in our short-sighted culture. This foresight extends beyond personal decisions to their reading of broader patterns, in relationships, in organizations, in societies. Capricorns often sense the underlying currents that will eventually reshape the surface landscape. They notice subtle signs of deterioration before structures collapse. They detect emerging opportunities before markets become saturated. They sense shifts in relationship dynamics before conflicts erupt. This isn't mystical. It's the natural result of deep observation paired with pattern recognition that spans decades rather than moments. What's particularly valuable about this foresight is how it enables strategic positioning. Capricorns rarely find themselves caught completely off guard by developments that devastate others. They've usually been quietly preparing, adjusting their course, strengthening vulnerable areas, or developing alternative pathways long before crises materialize, not from paranoia, but from a pragmatic assessment of possible futures that need to be accounted for. The strategic foresight vision also manifests in how Capricorns allocate their resources, their time, energy, attention, and finances. They instinctively understand the principle of compound interest in all areas of life. They recognize that small, consistent investments over time yield returns that appear miraculous to those who think only in terms of immediate gratification. This allows them to build wealth, skills, relationships, and knowledge bases that seem to materialize suddenly to outside observers, but which actually represent years or decades of deliberate cultivation. The sixth reason, sacred loyalty, bond. Completing this trinity of endurance powers is perhaps the most precious gift Capricorn offers to those fortunate enough to be close to them. The sacred loyalty bond that creates relationships of extraordinary depth, reliability, and meaning. In an age of increasingly disposable connections, where commitments are often treated as valid only until something better comes along, this loyalty stands as a radical alternative, a demonstration that some bonds truly can transcend convenience, circumstance, and time. The loyalty of Capricorn isn't given casually or indiscriminately. They tend to be selective about where they invest their trust and their heart, not from coldness, but from reverence for the depth of true connection. They understand that authentic loyalty requires capacity, discernment, and boundaries. But once that bond is formed, once they've determined someone or something is worthy of their commitment, their loyalty becomes nearly unshakable. You can recognize this sacred loyalty bond in how Capricorns show up during life's most challenging seasons. When loved ones face illness, financial hardship, personal crisis, or profound loss, Capricorns don't disappear or offer empty platitudes from a safe distance. They step in, they stay present, they provide practical support alongside emotional holding. They understand that real loyalty isn't just about celebrating together during good times, it's about walking through fire together when necessary. This loyalty extends beyond their intimate relationships to their broader commitments, to communities, to causes, to organizations, to principles. Once Capricorns align themselves with something they believe in, they don't abandon ship at the first sign of difficulty, or when maintaining that commitment becomes inconvenient. They are the ones still standing when trends fade, when enthusiasm wanes, when the initial excitement has long dissipated, not from stubborn inflexibility, but from a deep understanding that anything truly valuable requires sustained commitment through inevitable cycles of challenge. What makes this loyalty particularly remarkable is that it doesn't demand constant reciprocity to be maintained. Capricorns don't keep score in the way many do, tallying every gesture to ensure they're receiving exactly what they give. They understand that in any meaningful relationship, there will be seasons when one person needs to carry more weight, and they're willing to be the one who carries when necessary. This creates a quality of reliability that becomes a foundation upon which others can build their lives. The sacred loyalty bond isn't blind loyalty, however. Capricorns don't maintain toxic connections out of mere habit or fear of change. Their loyalty is discerning, governed by values rather than simply by history or familiarity. If fundamental trust is broken, if core values are violated, they can and will step away, not impulsively, but after careful consideration. And even these endings are approached with integrity, with the same commitment to doing things right that characterizes all their significant relationships. These three powers, soul-deep resilience, strategic foresight vision, and sacred loyalty bond, create an endurance that allows Capricorn to weather storms that would destroy others and to build connections that stand the test of time. But there's more to their light than mere survival or preservation. As we'll explore next, they also possess extraordinary capacities for transformation, leadership, and emotional sovereignty that elevate their presence to even greater heights. The seventh reason, self-mastery alchemy. Moving beyond the sacred loyalty bond, we encounter one of Capricorn's most transformative powers, their self-mastery alchemy. Unlike many who remain essentially the same person year after year, Capricorns possess an extraordinary ability to deliberately reshape themselves from the inside out, turning limitations into strengths and weaknesses into wisdom through a process that resembles spiritual metallurgy. This alchemy begins with radical self-honesty. Capricorns generally have little interest in the comfortable delusions that many use to protect their egos. They're willing to look unflinchingly at their own shadows, to acknowledge their flaws without melodrama, to recognize patterns that no longer serve them. This isn't self-criticism. It's clear-eyed assessment, the essential first step in any genuine transformation. They understand intuitively that you cannot change what you refuse to see. What distinguishes this self-mastery from ordinary self-improvement is its depth and comprehensiveness. Capricorns don't just work on surface behaviors or quick fixes. They're willing to examine and reshape their fundamental patterns of thinking, their emotional responses, their deepest motivations, and their most ingrained habits. They approach their own development with the same strategic vision and patience they bring to external projects, methodically identifying root causes rather than just treating symptoms. You can recognize this alchemical quality in how Capricorns handle their own failures and setbacks. Where many people defend, deflect, or make excuses when confronted with their mistakes, Capricorns more often respond with genuine curiosity. They want to understand exactly what went wrong, what it reveals about their blind spots, and how they can integrate this lesson to become more effective. They don't waste energy on shame or self-flagellation. They're too practical for that. Instead, they use failures as precise feedback mechanisms, as essential data points guiding their ongoing evolution. The self-mastery alchemy also reveals itself in how Capricorns approach skill development. They rarely dabble superficially in multiple areas seeking immediate gratification. Instead, they commit to mastery paths that require years or even decades of consistent practice. They understand that true excellence isn't about quick hacks or shortcuts. It's about showing up day after day, refining their craft through thousands of hours of deliberate practice. This creates a depth of skill that appears almost magical to those accustomed to the superficial competence that characterizes much of our culture. Perhaps most remarkably, this alchemy allows Capricorns to transmute even their most painful experiences into sources of wisdom, compassion, and strength. They don't simply survive trauma or hardship, they metabolize it, extracting the lessons, integrating the growth, and transforming the raw material of suffering into something useful, not just for themselves, but often for others as well. This creates a depth of character that can only be owned through lived experience, fully processed and integrated. The eighth reason, invisible leadership. Aura paired with their self-mastery is another extraordinary power. The invisible leadership aura that allows Capricorn to guide and direct without needing formal authority or external validation. Unlike leadership based on charisma, dominance, or political maneuvering, Capricorn leadership emerges organically from who they are, from their competence, their integrity, and their willingness to take responsibility when others won't. What makes this leadership invisible is that it often operates beneath conscious awareness. People naturally turn to Capricorns for guidance, naturally follow their suggestions, naturally align with their vision, often without explicitly recognizing that leadership is occurring. There's a gravitational quality to it, a natural alignment that happens not through force or manipulation, but through the magnetic pull of genuine capability paired with authentic care. You can observe this invisible leadership aura in how groups naturally reorganize themselves when a Capricorn enters a situation. Without announcing themselves or claiming authority, they become reference points around which others orient. In meetings, people unconsciously check their reactions after a Capricorn speaks. In crises, people instinctively look to them for direction. In conflicts, their perspective carries unusual weight. Not because they demand this influence, but because they've earned it through consistent demonstration of sound judgment and reliable character. This leadership quality extends beyond formal or professional settings into all areas of life. Within families, Capricorns often become the unspoken emotional anchors, the ones others lean on during difficult transitions, the ones who maintain stability when everything else seems uncertain. Within friend groups, they become the trusted advisors, the ones people seek out when facing important decisions, the ones whose approval matters even when no one would explicitly acknowledge this dynamic. What makes this leadership particularly valuable is its substance. Capricorns don't lead through image management, emotional manipulation, or charismatic performance. They lead through actual competence, through deep knowledge, through ethical consistency. They don't ask others to take risks they wouldn't take themselves. They don't impose standards they don't personally meet. They don't make promises they can't fulfill. This creates a foundation of trust that can withstand the inevitable challenges that any significant endeavor will face. The invisible leadership aura also manifests in how Capricorns handle difficult truths. In situations where others might avoid uncomfortable realities out of fear of conflict or rejection, Capricorns are often the ones willing to name what everyone senses, but no one wants to acknowledge, not from a desire to create discord, but from a deep commitment to integrity and clarity. This truth-telling function, delivered not with cruelty, but with compassion and precision, becomes another dimension of their natural leadership, the voice that breaks through collective denial and creates space for authentic progress. The ninth reason, emotional sovereignty shield. Completing this trinity of mastery powers is the emotional sovereignty shield. Capricorn's extraordinary ability to remain centered and clear, even amidst emotional storms, both internal and external. This isn't emotional suppression or detachment. It's the capacity to feel deeply while retaining sovereignty over how those feelings translate into actions and decisions. In a culture increasingly characterized by emotional reactivity, where people often allow momentary feelings to dictate major life choices, this sovereignty represents a profound alternative. Capricorns understand something vital that many have forgotten, that emotions provide invaluable information, but make dangerous masters. They've learned to create space between what they feel and how they respond, a pause that allows wisdom to enter where impulse might otherwise rule. You can recognize this emotional sovereignty shield in how Capricorns handle conflict or criticism. Where others might immediately counterattack when feeling threatened or collapse into insecurity when facing negative feedback, Capricorns typically respond with a measured thoughtfulness. They can absorb the emotional charge of difficult interactions without losing their center. They can consider criticism for its potential value without either automatically rejecting it or being devastated by it. This creates a remarkable stability that makes them invaluable during crises when clear thinking is most needed. This sovereignty extends to how Capricorns navigate their own internal emotional landscape. They generally don't allow temporary emotional states to override their deeper values or long-term commitments. They understand that all feelings, both pleasant and painful, are by nature transient, and that building a life on the shifting sands of emotional reactivity creates instability. Instead, they anchor their choices in principles, in purpose, in carefully considered priorities that transcend momentary emotional weather. What makes this emotional sovereignty particularly powerful is that it doesn't require controlling or micromanaging circumstances. Capricorns don't need everything to go perfectly to maintain their center. They don't need everyone to approve of them to feel secure in their worth. They don't need constant validation to stay committed to their path. This creates a profound independence, not from connection or care for others, but from the emotional hostage-taking that characterizes many relationships, where people use emotions to control each other's behavior. The emotional sovereignty shield also allows Capricorns to hold space for others during emotional intensity without becoming overwhelmed themselves. When loved ones are in pain, in fear, in anger, or in confusion, Capricorns can provide a steady presence that neither dismisses emotions nor becomes consumed by them. This creates a container of safety where real healing and clarity can emerge, a rare and precious gift in a world where emotional regulation skills have become increasingly scarce. These three powers, self-mastery alchemy, invisible leadership aura, and emotional sovereignty shield, create a presence of remarkable depth, influence, and stability. They allow Capricorn to transform themselves and their environment without drama, without coercion, without the need for external validation. But there's still more to their light, a final trinity of powers that completes their incomparable presence in this world, centered around divine timing, legacy, and the quiet ambition that drives all their extraordinary achievements. The 10th reason, divine timing intuition. Building upon the emotional sovereignty shield, we discover Capricorn's remarkable divine timing intuition, an almost supernatural sense of when to advance, when to retreat, when to speak, and when to remain silent. In a world that pushes for constant action and immediate results, this intuitive relationship with timing stands as a rare and precious wisdom. This isn't about passive waiting or indecision. Capricorns are decisive when necessary, sometimes strikingly so. Their timing intuition is more sophisticated. It's about recognizing the natural rhythms underlying all processes and aligning their actions with these rhythms rather than fighting against them. They understand intuitively that there are seasons for planting, seasons for cultivating, seasons for harvesting, and seasons for allowing fields to lie fallow. Forcing any of these processes out of their natural sequence creates unnecessary struggle and ultimately diminished results. You can observe this divine timing intuition in how Capricorns make major moves in their lives, where others might rush important transitions, changing careers, starting businesses, advancing relationships, making investments. Out of fear of missing opportunities, Capricorns often exhibit remarkable patience. They wait for the moment when internal readiness and external conditions align. Then, when that moment arrives, they move decisively, without hesitation or second guessing. This creates a quality of rightness to their significant life changes that often eludes those who move primarily from impulse or external pressure. This timing sense extends to how Capricorns navigate interpersonal dynamics. They seem to know instinctively when a difficult conversation needs to happen immediately and when it needs space to breathe, when encouragement will catalyze growth and when challenge will provoke necessary reconsideration, when to hold others accountable and when to extend grace. This nuanced understanding of human timing creates relationships characterized by respect for natural developmental processes, rather than forcing premature resolutions or avoiding necessary confrontations. What makes this timing intuition particularly valuable is how it conserves energy. Much of the exhaustion people experience comes from swimming against the current, forcing projects forward when conditions aren't right, trying to harvest results before sufficient groundwork has been laid, attempting to rush processes that require maturation. Capricorns avoid much of this unnecessary struggle by recognizing which battles are worth fighting now and which situations simply need time to ripen. This creates a sustainability to their efforts that allows them to maintain momentum over decades, while others burn out pursuing immediate breakthroughs. The divine timing intuition also reveals itself in how Capricorns handle setbacks and delays. Where others might interpret these as failures or punishments, Capricorns often recognize them as necessary redirections, nature's way of saying not yet or not this way. This doesn't mean they passively accept every obstacle. They distinguish between resistance that's testing their commitment and resistance that's revealing a fundamental misalignment requiring course correction. This discernment allows them to persist through necessary challenges while remaining flexible enough to adapt when circumstances genuinely demand it. The 11th reason, legacy builder vision. Intertwined with their timing intuition is Capricorn's legacy builder vision, their extraordinary capacity to create with multiple generations in mind, to build not just for immediate rewards, but for lasting impact that extends far beyond their own lifetime. While many focus on what will bring satisfaction now, Capricorns naturally consider what will continue providing value decades or even centuries into the future. This isn't abstract idealism or mere sentimentality about leaving a mark. It's a practical, grounded approach to creation that recognizes the interconnectedness of time, that understands we inherit the works of those who came before us and bequeath our own works to those who will follow. Capricorns take this responsibility seriously. They build as if their great-grandchildren will someday live in the structures they create, whether those structures are physical buildings, businesses, artistic works, or community institutions. You can recognize this legacy builder vision in the quality of Capricorn's work. They rarely cut corners for short-term convenience. They don't sacrifice durability for immediate cost savings. They don't prioritize quick profits over sustainable growth. This isn't perfectionism for its own sake. It's a deep understanding that anything worth building is worth building well, that integrity in the foundation determines how tall and how long a structure can stand. This vision extends to how Capricorns approach resources. They tend to be excellent stewards of what they've been entrusted with, whether that's land, money, relationships, or institutional knowledge. Not from miserliness, but from respect for the value these resources represent and the potential they hold. They understand that true wealth isn't about maximizing consumption now, but about cultivation over time, about growing resources rather than depleting them, about leaving things better than they found them. What makes this legacy orientation particularly powerful is how it transforms the meaning of work. For many people, work is primarily transactional, something done to obtain immediate compensation or recognition. For Capricorns, work is often vocational, something that connects them to purposes larger than themselves, to lineages that extend backward and forward through time. This creates a depth of commitment and meaning that sustains them through inevitable challenges and setbacks. They aren't just building careers, they're creating legacies. The legacy builder vision also manifests in how Capricorns approach knowledge and skill development. They value wisdom traditions, apprenticeship models, and proven methodologies that have stood the test of time. Not from rigidity or fear of innovation, but from respect for the accumulated experience of those who came before. They understand that not every wheel needs reinvention, that building upon solid foundations allows them to reach heights that would be impossible if everyone started from scratch with each generation. The 12th reason, quiet ambition radiance. Completing our exploration is perhaps Capricorn's most misunderstood power, their quiet ambition radiance. Unlike ambition, fueled primarily by ego, competition, or insecurity, Capricorn ambition emerges from a sacred contract with their own potential, a profound commitment to becoming all they were meant to be and creating all they were meant to create. This ambition doesn't need spotlights or applause. It doesn't require constant external validation or public recognition. It's content to work in silence, allowing results to speak for themselves. What makes this quiet ambition so powerful is its sustainability. While ego-driven ambition often burns hot and then burns out, Capricorn's inner-directed ambition can maintain steady intensity across an entire lifetime, fueled by purpose rather than pride. You can recognize this quiet ambition radiance in how Capricorns pursue their goals. They rarely announce big plans prematurely or seek attention for intentions not yet manifested. Instead, they put their energy into the actual work, into the thousands of small, unglamorous steps that eventually create extraordinary outcomes. They understand intuitively that talking about achievements consumes energy better used for creating those achievements, that the satisfaction of doing outweighs the temporary pleasure of being seen to do. This ambition reveals itself in the standards Capricorns set for themselves. They don't measure success primarily by comparing themselves to others or by accumulating external markers of status. They measure it by their own internal benchmarks, by whether they've fulfilled their potential, honored their gifts, remained true to their principles, and created something of lasting value. This self-referential ambition creates a remarkable independence from the fickle winds of public opinion or conventional definitions of success. What makes this quiet ambition particularly powerful is its immunity to discouragement. Because Capricorns aren't primarily motivated by external validation, they can maintain momentum even when recognition is slow in coming. even when others don't yet understand their vision. Even when temporary setbacks might cause others to abandon ship, their compass is internal, guided by purpose rather than praise, which allows them to stay the course when more externally motivated individuals would have long since moved on to whatever garners immediate applause. The quiet ambition. Radiance also shows itself in how Capricorns celebrate achievements. While they certainly appreciate recognition when it comes, they don't require elaborate external validation to feel satisfied with their work. There's an intrinsic reward in knowing they've created something excellent, something aligned with their values, something that will last. This creates a grounded contentment that doesn't depend on trending on social media or receiving public accolades, a satisfaction born of integrity rather than attention. These final three powers, divine timing intuition, legacy builder vision, and quiet ambition radiance, complete our portrait of Capricorn's incomparable light. Together with their previous 9 powers, they create a presence of extraordinary depth, wisdom, and impact. A presence not based on dominance or control, but on creation, endurance, and transformation. In a world increasingly characterized by impermanence, Capricorn represents the eternal. In a culture of noise and spectacle, they embody the power of silence and substance. In an age of instant gratification, they stand for the timeless truth that anything of real value requires patience, commitment, and consistent effort over time. Whether you recognize these qualities in yourself or in the Capricorns in your life, there's an invitation here to honor this quiet strength, to learn from its wisdom, to recognize the extraordinary value of a presence that builds rather than boasts, that endures rather than dominates, that transforms rather than controls. In a world that often overlooks the mountain in favor of the flashier, noisier elements, those who can recognize Capricorn's light find themselves in the presence of something truly incomparable, a power that doesn't announce itself, yet changes everything it touches. After journeying through the 12 powers of light that make Capricorn truly incomparable, we stand in awe of the profound spiritual archetype revealed before us. From their unshakable mountain essence to their quiet ambition radiance, we've uncovered a constellation of strengths that creates a presence unlike any other, not of dominance, but of endurance, not of control, but of creation, not of flash, but of substance. The Capricorn spirit embodies what our world desperately needs but increasingly lacks: the capacity to build something that lasts. In an age of disposable relationships, they offer sacred loyalty that endures through storms. In a culture of reactivity, they demonstrate emotional sovereignty that maintains clarity amidst chaos. In a society obsessed with instant results, they model timeless patience that allows genuine mastery to develop. In a world that often sacrifices quality for speed, they insist on legacy building that considers generations yet unborn. These powers aren't separate qualities, but an integrated whole, each one supporting and amplifying the others. Their strategic foresight vision works in harmony with their divine timing intuition. Their self-mastery, alchemy reinforces their silent strength magnetism. Their soul-deep resilience enables their invisible leadership aura. Together, these create a presence of extraordinary coherence and depth, a human mountain in a landscape increasingly dominated by sand. What makes this Capricorn light truly remarkable is how it transforms not just the individual who carries it, but everyone fortunate enough to be in its orbit. In the presence of a fully embodied Capricorn, others find themselves standing taller, thinking more clearly, committing more deeply. They find permission to value substance over spectacle, to choose the meaningful over the merely convenient, to trust that some things are still worth building slowly and well. The world doesn't just need more Capricorns. It needs more people willing to cultivate these Capricorn qualities, regardless of when they were born. We need builders, not just critics. We need those who maintain stability in chaos. We need those who can see beyond the immediate moment to the longer arc of possibility. And most of all, we need those who understand that true power doesn't shout, it endures. If this exploration has resonated with something deep within you, I invite you to become part of our community here at Secret of the Zodiac. Hit that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. Each video we create is designed to illuminate the profound spiritual truths encoded in the Zodiac, not the surface-level horoscope predictions you find everywhere, but the archetypal wisdom that can genuinely transform how you understand yourself and navigate your life. The like button does more than you might realize. It helps these deeper insights reach others who are searching for substance in a world increasingly dominated by superficiality. It tells the algorithm that content of depth and meaning matters, that wisdom deserves as much visibility as entertainment. I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these 12 powers of light do you recognize in yourself or in the Capricorns in your life? Which one would you most like to develop further? What challenges have you faced in embodying these qualities in a world that often pulls in the opposite direction? Your perspective enriches this conversation immeasurably, adding dimensions and insights that benefit our entire community. If you found genuine value in what we're creating at Secret of the Zodiac, please consider supporting our work through the Super Thanks button below this video. Creating content at this level, researched, thoughtful, substantive, requires significant time, energy, and resources. Your contribution, no matter the size, makes an enormous difference in our ability to continue producing daily videos that go beyond the surface and into the transformative depths of astrological wisdom. Your support enables us to maintain the quality you deserve while increasing our output to serve this growing community. It helps cover production costs, research time, and the technical infrastructure needed to bring these insights to you consistently. More importantly, it allows us to remain independent, focused on truth and depth, rather than chasing trends or diluting our message to appeal to algorithms. Check out our other videos exploring the hidden powers of each zodiac sign. From Aries' primal fire to Pisces' mystical depths, each exploration offers insights that can transform how you understand yourself and those around you. This isn't just content consumption. It's an invitation to deeper self-knowledge and more authentic living. Thank you for joining this journey into the luminous mountain that is Capricorn. Until our paths cross again in the next video, remember that the most powerful transformations often happen in silence, that the most valuable creations take time, and that the most profound strength doesn't need to announce itself to change the world.